Marc Jackson, NBC Sports Philadelphia pre- and post-game live. As the Sixers get ready to take on the Celtics, he joins us now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline with a look at the 2018-2019 season for the Sixers. Mark, welcome back, my friend. How you been?
I've been outstanding, gentlemen. How are you?
We're doing great, and we're looking forward to the night. We were just kind of throwing around, the anticipation for the season, and I actually contend because of, Embiid and Simmons, and last year you had Fultz, which ended up not really helping out that much. I almost feel that there was more anticipation to see those guys than there is for this season because I feel like people feel like the ceiling for this team is about the same as where they ended last year. What about you?
I've been up and down on that. I really believe that the finishing where they ended last year, I think, is a reality. Is a reality we need to consider. But I do believe the quicker that Markelle folks can get into the groove with everyone else and give us some of that number one overall pick talent, I believe they can truly move up to a second place to start the end the season. And I really believe that once you get in the playoffs, health plays a major factor in how you're playing going into that. So during the playoffs, I think anything's possible.
Yeah, it's a race.
Yeah, you're talking about the health, and obviously, one of the things at the end of last year, we're not sure. You and I, Mark, talked about a lot. Joel Embiid's health and wearing that mask, and how things might have been different if he didn't have that mask on in that playoff series against Boston.
Exactly. I really believe that hindered Joel from playing at 100% capacity. And if you remember, gentlemen, he also sat out a few weeks going into the playoffs because of the injury. So he got out of shape a little bit, got out of rhythm a little bit, so he did not go into the playoffs at 100% or into that series at 100%. And who knows what would have happened if he was in there 100% healthy. But when I was speaking of health, I just wasn't only speaking of the 76ers. I really believe Boston has considered Gordon Hayward, Kyrie Irving. Both of them coming off major surgeries. Are they going to be able to play a full season and stay healthy too? And I think that's important to their success as well.
Yeah, and Mark, one thing, it's difficult, right, to factor in injury and just predict who's going to get hurt, who's going to stay healthy. The other thing I imagine that you're looking at to change in the postseason this year than last year is coaching. Not to knock Brett Brown by any means, but everybody can get better. Knowing that it's a race and that you can't fix things that went wrong in the playoffs last year overnight, what are you looking at in this year specifically with Brett Brown that he can grow into an even better coach?
I think this year's team is different because Bellinelli, Ilyasova, and J.J. Redick coming off the bench is different. You didn't have a bunch of shooters that can shoot that thing at will and give you a major high percentage clip. I think this year they're more defensive oriented. I think they really got the roster set on stopping the Boston Celtics and not out shooting them. I think they were exposed a little last year, and they come in with the mentality is Boston made us put the ball on the floor, and they made our shooters create off the dribble, and that's not the strong point. So I think we have two superstars, and I really believe that we need to try to stop them, and hopefully bringing JJ off the bench, he still can give us enough shooting, and the other guys can give us some shooting enough to be successful.
Mark, you mentioned it, and last year's team, the demise of the team essentially was the lack of perimeter defense and the lack of depth coming off the bench. They move Redick to the bench now, but who's someone that you're keeping an eye on, outside of Embiid, Simmons, Fultz, and I even want to take out J.J. Redick because he's an obvious. Who's a role player that you're keeping an eye on that you can say to yourself, man, if this guy really steps up and plays consistent, good ball, that can be a difference maker for this team?
Wilson, two of them. I got two of them. I got Wilson Chandler and Furkan. I really believe
Furkan, huh? That's interesting.
I was thinking about it since the end of last season when I had a feeling Bellinelli wouldn't be back. I really believe Furkan could give us some of that Bellinelli spark off the bench. I really believe he can earn his way into the rotation throughout the year, and I think his services will be needed. as another shooter besides another marksman shooter besides from JJ. I really believe that. But I think Wilson Chandler, I believe that he can give us that defense that Rocco can give us, as well as give us a few extra points off the bounce consistently that Rocco is not notoriously known for. I really believe he can give us that. Those are my two key guys for this season is Wilson Chandler and Furkan.
Let me throw a quick guy your way because I was very impressed with Landry Shamet. He's a guy that's an afterthought, I guess. You know, these late first-round picks, they don't get a lot of hoopla. I liked what I saw from him. Do you anticipate, was that just more, it was preseason, or did you see a guy that can give them something?
No. I believe that's a guy that can give them something consistently. He gives them another long defender. He's about 6'5", 6'4.5". He can shoot the ball. He shot the ball at a better clip in the preseason than I anticipated. But I covered a couple of their games last year for another network in college basketball, so I've seen a lot of him play. He's been shooting the ball better at a quicker release than I anticipated. I knew he was going to give him defense, but I wonder. TJ has had so much success for this team in the last couple of years. That means Shamet will be taking some of TJ's minutes. Is Brett Brown comfortable with doing that? But I think Shamet during preseason has earned that right to be on that court, consistent minutes in a rotation. Respectfully, with Zaire Smith being out, I think that's giving him even more leeway to play with. I think that's something to look out for.
Mark, what type of year are you anticipating Covington to have? Because, listen, his defense is underrated. He's an asset for this team, but he's the scapegoat for a lot of fans, and he's inconsistent at best with his shooting from three. So what do you anticipate from Covington this year, and how important is his role for this team?
I really believe that Rocco is going to give us the same contribution as last year. I think Rocco is going to continue to be an up-and-down shooter. I think he'll end the season at 40% from three. But I really believe he's going to go through stretches where he is 1 for 10, 0 for 12. I just think that's something he can't stop doing. I think that's in his DNA. But I do think he'll balance out by the end of the year. But I truly believe that he is a consistent defender. I think he's underrated by the fans defensively and what he gives this organization. But I think in that organization with the coaches, his teammates, whose opinions count more, I think they know that he gives them that consistent wing defender that can guard the other team's best perimeter score. So I think we're going to continue to get that defense, but I really believe he's not going to be more of a consistent shooter. I think that's in him. I think he'll be up and down, but I think if you look at the big picture at the end of the season, I truly believe he's going to be a shoot in the season at 39, 40% from three.
Mark, you've been in the league, and you know how sometimes, not all the time, sometimes as a young player, if you get success early, it can be something that you'll have to overcome and continue to battle the complacency. And I don't think that these kids are complacent by any means. I think it might be the opposite, which could be a problem to start the season, meaning they're so focused on how things ended last year that they're working, like it's almost about getting back to the playoffs and fixing things that happened last year that they might overlook an 82-game schedule, maybe in the first month or so. Do you sense any of that concern as well?
I don't, because I think the 76ers are a market room full of hungry dogs. What that means is I really believe they got players like Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Markel Fultz. They have a lot of people with something to prove. I think Ben has said all the right things. I'm not worried about the other rookies. I'm chasing the best players in the game. I think Joel wants to prove that he's MVP caliber. I think Markel Fultz wants to prove that he's not a dud. His injury was just something hindered him last year, and he's coming out with vengeance this year. I truly believe that Landry Shamet is proving that he should be on that court, which that means TJ is proving he needs to be in a rotation, and he's going to fight for that. I think Wilson Chandler needs to come in here and prove that he can put this team over the hump. I really believe they have a lot of people with chips on their shoulders, and I think they're going to wear that on their sleeve. And I think they're going to come in hungry. They have a lot of pit bulls salivating. Can't wait to get to the opponent. And I'm not just saying that, Johnny, because I'm a homer. I'm saying that because as a former player, I really believe that's the mentality they're coming in here with.
Man, last time a team got hungry dogs, you know what happened.
Hey, and one thing, Mark, is a lot of people look at this season and look at Boston and say they're head and shoulders better than Philadelphia. And then Toronto, who won 59 games, they went out and got Kawhi Leonard. He's pretty darn good. The Vegas line still have the Sixers as the third team in their own division. So it makes people feel like, hey, this team is still kind of – they're getting into that spot where, all right, they're going to win 50 games, make the playoffs, which is that spot where people said we don't want to be. So what does this team need to do to kind of get over that hump of being that perennial 50-win playoff team to take that next step? How do they get there?
How do they get there as a team? They need Ben to have the same production year last season. They need to be more, and they was already top of the league, one of the top of the league at the defense, but they got to take it to a whole nother level. I think that's one thing, and I think Markelle Fultz and my man, Super Dario, I really believe those two guys got to combine, the two of them, to give the 76ers their production that the coach came out, he's like, we're superstar hunting. They didn't get him. But I think with Dario and Markelle Fultz combined, need to give them the productivity of a superstar. And with that being said, I think that's what they need to surprise many of us and finish number 1 or 2 in the Eastern Conference.
You know, when you look at Philly and Boston, not just because they play tonight, because many people look at these two young teams. What separates the two? What gives one the advantage over the other? Do you like the way they sometimes styles make the fights, and if you just match up with a team, what do you think about when you look at those two teams as constructed right now?
As constructed, I believe Boston has the best 1 through 8 in the NBA. I know we look at Golden State with 1 through 5, but after that 5th man, Boston 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th man. If you look at 1 through 9, I really believe Boston has the best roster in the NBA, hands down. Other than Golden State's 5, Boston has the best roster. They have everything. They have consistent scoring. They have shooting. They have defense. They have hungry young guys mixed with proven veterans. I think they just have more of a potent superstar roster of 1 through 9. I really believe they do, and I think that's what separates them. You have Terry Rozier. You have Marquise Morris. Now you add Gordon Hayward, Kyrie. So you still got Tatum. You still got Al Horford. You still got Jaylen Brown. Don't forget about Baines. Baines had a great series against the 76ers last year. They just got more of a prolific bench, 1 through 9. And I think that's what separates the 76ers and the Boston Celtics.
Mike asked you about, how do they get to the next level, and you said defense and Simmons playing well, Embiid playing well, et cetera. I completely agree. But one thing that was a negative for this team last year is the turnovers, Mark. When they had 19 or more turnovers, they had an 8-15 record. When they had 15 or fewer turnovers, they were 30-9. How do they get those turnovers consistently down this year?
I think a lot of that is having more ball handlers and playmakers on the court. Yes, we had Ben, we had TJ, and Joel. Joel had a lot of turnovers. I mean, let's just call it the way we see it. He had a lot of turnovers last year. And that's going to come with, if you look at most players in the NBA, the guys who lead the team in scoring have the most turnovers on the team because they have more usage rate with the ball. So that's going to happen. But I think having more players that can handle it at once. So instead of having just having Ben and Markelle Fultz on the court at the same time, that gives you another ball handler. So key teams can't really focus on one guy pushing it up. Coach said, I have now 3 pushers in Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz, and TJ. But I look, you got 4. You got Ben, Markelle Fultz, TJ, and Landry Shamet. So you got more guys handling the ball, which means Ben doesn't have to be pounding the ball as much.
What does Joel Embiid need to do, in your opinion, Mark, if you want to look at a nightly stat line, if you want to look at just impacting the game, in order to be truly considered as a top 5 MVP candidate, knowing how deep that top talent is in the NBA?
He has to realize that he's the largest, biggest man on that court. Mm-hmm. And I know you have all the crossovers the three-point shot, the between the legs, hezzy, wiggle moves. I know that. But if you have somebody 6'8" on you, go down there and pound them and put that ball down their throat. I think starting the game off, banging guys down there, getting points, getting fouled, forcing the double, triple teams, making the game easier for your surrounding players, and then moving out to the three-point line. I really believe that would help him if he would start the game off more, work on pounding them guys in the post. They was, oh, that's not today's game. Oh, you can't play that way. That's hogwash. If Shaquille O'Neal was playing today, he would still dominate the paint, and his teams would be now one in the league. So Joel Embiid is no different. He's the biggest man on the court, the most unstoppable force in the NBA when he's in that paint area. So when you're 7'2" and you outside doing a pick and roll, taking a 6'6" off the dribble in the wing, yeah, you can do it. But I like your chances better around that basket, and then moving out to the wing. That will limit some of his mistakes throughout the game.
Marc Jackson, Sixers pre- and post-game, and Sixers open against the Celtics tonight, 8 o'clock. You can hear the game on 97.3 ESPN. Mark, what does Brett Brown need to do better this year? And how important is it for him to make strides? Because many people thought that he was a factor in some of those losses in the playoffs.
I think he has to learn from his mistakes. I think that's easier to say than done. You know, consistency helps everything. So when he has a consistent roster with no injuries, consistent rotation, then he can make a lot of adjustments on the fly with people he know he has in uniform and has a green light to play all this slotted minutes with no minutes restriction. With that being said, I really think Brett Brown is a bright soul and a bright mind in his game. I really truly believe that he's going to become a better coach. Why can I say that? Because I think every coach strives to be better, no matter how you finish last year. Steve Kerr wants to be a better coach. You have to find things that motivate you and things that just you need. You don't win a championship, and even if you do win a championship, unless you go undefeated, you can always make room for improvement. So I think him learning how to implement all the new pieces he has and playing the game with less shooting on the court, meaning Bellinelli and JJ. Bellinelli and Ilyasova is a major piece. And not having Bellinelli and Ilyasova on the team is going to hurt the 76ers' perimeter threat. But they inherited more defense. So I think that would help Brett Brown and the way he wants to play the game.
Sixers over-under is 53.5. What say you, Marc Jackson?
55 wins.
55 wins. We've got Toronto at 55.5.
Oh, Toronto's 50. Toronto's going down.
Whoa, Toronto going down.
What's the biggest reason? Change of coach?
Two reasons. Coach moving and Kyle Lowry.
Yeah.
Kyle Lowry and Kawhi Leonard. Kyle Lowry is a very sociable guy.
That's a Temple guy, not like a Villanova guy.
I mean, hey, let's go. No. What I'm saying is a good thing about Kyle. Kyle's a very sociable guy. He's a loving guy. That's why he has such a big influence on DeRozan and how he played and how with DeRozan. DeRozan came out about his mental things that he was going through throughout his career, and Kyle helped with that. Not having DeRozan in the locker room and bringing Kawhi in, who's an introverted guy who stays to himself, I think that's going to hurt the chemistry of that team. And not having a coach is going to hurt the chemistry of that team. They're going to lose. They're going to lose more games than they did last year. I'm saying about 48, 49, 50 wins.
All right. Should be interesting to see. And we've got, of course, the Sixers and Celtics tonight right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Mark, we look forward to another season of having your insight and seeing you on the television and all that good stuff as the Sixers are back. And we can't wait for it, man. Thanks so much.
Appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
All right. Marc Jackson, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.